Alrighty, got another featured league match. This one amongst two participants of Division H7. We have Kuyara and TrinaCat, who are closely in contention for avoiding demotion here. So this match probably could have some significance in the final standings, given that the division is already wrapping up. Trina could use a win here to overtake Kuyara and stay in H Division. What do we have for our first kingdom? We got villages with Rusty Village and the villagers from Lackeys. There's Draw with Journeyman. There is no trashing at all except for Treasure, which can kill coppers. So Young Witch could be relevant. What's the Divine Wind? Oh, so maybe this kingdom's not terribly relevant after all, because it's going to be disappearing in short order, given that the main village in this kingdom triggers a total reset. So what do you do here in the opening? I think with Divine Wind, it's often a question of, like, what do I want to get before the Divine Wind triggers? And I probably want to get my hands on a Treasure, I think, because there's at least some thinning here. You never know if there's good copper trash later on. We see Young Witch Lackeys and Young Witch Silver. Both of those strike me as fairly reasonable openings. I'm generally not a big fan of Young Witch. I don't think it's a very strong card. But here it comes with a Silver, which is helpful for hitting 5. And also, there's no curse trashing in this kingdom, at least. Maybe a good trash will show up later on. So it does look better than average here. I definitely prefer Young Witch Lackeys over Young Witch Silver. You're getting a Silver anyway. Lackeys is going to be a better card than Silver later on. And Lackeys is also the Bane, so it kind of counters the other Young Witch. So I prefer Trina's opening. And yeah, I think... Oh, I do not like Highway as the first 5. That is definitely not correct. So Highway, potentially a very strong card. Especially like late in the game, you get a bunch of Highways, you have some plus buy, you can buy 8 provinces for 0 money each. Definitely can be powerful. But it's not really a good card at all until you have plus buy. Like, if you're buying a single thing per turn, then that Highway is basically just like a merchant or a peddler, which is not terribly strong for 5. Treasure is definitely the first 5 here. That seems clear enough to me. We do see Kuyara buying Treasure. Yeah, the gold also, as DZ is pointing out, it strikes me as an enormous mistake. Definitely, you do not want to be buying gold in most kingdoms. Like, you need a strong, proactive reason to think, I want to gold my deck before you click gold, and nothing here suggests buy a gold. The key thing to know is, like, there's a lot of things of relevance here, but just there's an engine to be built, and gold is actively making your deck more cluttered and getting you further from deck control. And so that might be worse than nothing, even, I would say, for a turn 3 buy, just because you are you're adding a junk card to your deck that's getting in the way of your draw cards, your thinners, etc. Definitely the key cards here are going to be early on Lackeys and Rusty Village. Is your draw on your villages. Treasure is your thinning. Grand Market's fine because it's the only plus buy card available here. I could see picking up a Grand Market just in case the following kingdom does not have plus buy. Although the way they're playing, it doesn't look like we're going to see the second kingdom. No one's touching the village in this kingdom. Yeah. Who was it who opened Young Witch Lackeys? Yeah, I liked TrinaCat's opening, but I do not like where their deck is going from here. The gold and silver are definitely, I think, suggesting the wrong motivations. So we've got a bunch of terminal action cards on our deck now. The Lackeys, the Young Witch, etc. Well, one thinks you'd want a village here. Also, with all the junk, the sifting effect is not terrible. Like, in an ideal scenario, you don't use the 2 cards for 1 card very often. That's not a great trade-off. But this is definitely not an ideal kingdom. Yeah, I don't like any of these highway gains. They just these decks are not at the point where not the gold either. These decks are not the point where you need the payload. Highway is not doing much for you until you're lining it up with like multiple highways, multiple plus buy cards, and then it scales, very quickly. It can be very strong, but not in a deck that's full of junk. It is just basically generating 1 coin per turn, which is not great for 5. You should be seeing a lot more lackeys bought, a lot more rustic villages, and then if that happens, this kingdom disappears, and then you have a whole other kingdom to think about. But it doesn't look like that's going to occur here. All right, well, given the position we're in, it looks like building an engine, that ship has sailed. So what are we doing instead? Lackeys is going to remain a very good card here. I like lackeys to buy there just because if we're playing big money, you're not going to see that lackeys more than 2 times before the game ends. So the immediate on-game villagers are significant, and you can just play it as a lab. And you don't have to think about, over the long term, it's going to be a terminal action card, because it will eventually be a dead card in your deck. But in a deck with 30 cards, and you're already provincing, you're not going to play it more than 2 times before the game ends. So I think aggressively clicking lackeys and then provinces is probably the move from here on out. Province double lackeys here, for example, looks great. Ooh, how many silvers do you have? There's no way that is worth that many points. Look at this hand, and now imagine you had 4 villagers, and how much better this hand will look. Looking at the chat, maybe I've been misreading this name. Maybe it's TrinaCat, like they're trying to cat, which would explain why they're typing me out. Word on the street is everybody wants to be a cat. Okay, well, we managed to collide a highway with Grand Market, so this highway is at least going to be doing something. Definitely just province lackeys here. Yeah, that all checks out. It's not obvious that you play this last lackeys. I'm going to say probably don't. You've already got 5, which is a duchy. And the odds that it gets you to 8 are not high. It might draw your actions dead, and that villager might come in handy later. Yeah, I like just passing and buying a duchy here. Double lackeys also would have been totally fine there. Ooh, this is a little bit of a tricky choice. I think this is... I don't like the estate as much. I think buying the penultimate province was pretty reasonable there as Kuyara. Obviously, if your opponent has a full turn, you're inviting them to end the game. But Kuyara was behind enough that you kind of had to bank on, I'm going to buy the second last province, hope my opponent duds, and then I can nab it from them. But with that in mind, I don't think the 1 extra point from estate makes enough of a difference. A lackey's there for an extra villager. Seems much more significant to me. Like, imagine this estate in hand were a lackeys, for example. Would be a happier hand. They do manage to hit province anyway. So first game goes to Kuyara. It did look like TrinaCat was ahead, but Kuyara took a gamble there and it paid off. All right, the next kingdom. Ooh, this one looks a little trickier. So you got the stuff you need to build here, but it's not a very strong kingdom. Yeah, research looks like the main thinner. There's also remodel and miser and mint. You got draw with hunting grounds, draw and action with nobles. Plus buy would mostly come off of loots from cutthroat. This strikes me as the sort of kingdom where research looks really good to me. Actions are fairly limited. Nobles is like a $6 necropolis. You're never happy when you're using nobles as your main source of actions. Diplomat can technically be a source of actions here, but there's not a great way to trigger it. Like, it does synergize a little bit with nobles. You have to have the nobles in hand first with the diplomats. So you got kind of limited actions, and that makes it hard to like. You could build into it like nobles as a village, hunting grounds as a draw, but it's just not very efficient. Like $6 a piece for each of your main engine components, and one of them's an acropolis. And so this strikes me as a sort of kingdom where I just want to like aggressively research a bunch of stuff, and I'm not going to draw my entire deck every turn, but I'm going to like set aside 7 cards and have like big spiky turns. I also like the idea of researching a state into a $5 mint hand to kill 5 coppers at once would look pretty good. And then you could scale back up pretty quickly by adding an idol. Because even if you mint most of your coppers, you can hit idol using credit. What did they do? The TrinaCat opens research Cutthroat. Definitely like the research. Is Cutthroat the buy on 3? I'm not sure. That's not obvious to me. I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't have taken Cutthroat. I think probably just a silver. But Cutthroat is not unreasonable, I don't think. Kuyara goes for turn 1 idle. Idle is hasty. Normally I would say credit turn 1 is almost never the right play because the main benefit of credit is getting something back into your deck early, so you'd rather buy something turn 1, use credit turn 2. But in this case, it does make some sense because you're getting an early idle play. Potentially good boon. So I think turn 1 idle. I'm going to say no. Again, like I see the rationale. You get the hasty effect. I really want to buy a research in the opening. And this is not likely to get you to research on turn 2 unless you get lucky and pull like Earth's Gift or something. So I'm going to say probably the hasty idle is a mistake. Maybe if it's like research turn 1, idle turn 2, it looks better. But yeah, as it turns out, they don't get, even with a Sea's Gift, they don't get to 4. And missing out on research seems too significant to me. That seems alright. You get the Cutthroat back into your deck. Helpful idol, triggering this diplomat. I'd research like crazy. Yeah, I think this kingdom is first and foremost a research kingdom. It looks like the most significant card in this kingdom to me. Like there's just a bunch of ways to shove a bunch of high value cards into your deck, and there's otherwise very little deck control. And so there's trashing expensive stuff. Seems like a pretty good game plan here. Nobles. Seems like defensible. Like here, I would research this gold in a heartbeat. That's 6 cards. 6 cards of value. And if you have a big research draw, I think that takes care of the coppers on its own. You line up all your coppers in one hand, buy a mint. And mint is an okay card here with all the treasures floating around. Also, mint is more likely an okay research target. So I think I would much rather research the gold than kill the coppers one by one. They're taking all the nobles. I don't hate the nobles. Nobles are fine here, just given that nothing else is terribly strong. But it's one of those cards that people just compulsively click much more than they should. Like you could play with 0 nobles in this kingdom and be fine. It was a little sad to me that 1 research has been gained this game and it's not even getting played. And I don't want to suggest that research is in general the strongest card. I'd say on average it's solid but not amazing or anything. The biggest drawback it has is that in a stronger kingdom, you don't want to be drawing with research because you're setting aside a big chunk of your cards every turn. So you're not playing most of your cards if you're drawing by setting aside most of it for the following turn. It's kind of like the problem with drawing primarily with archive is like all your cards get stuck on the archive. Same thing with research. But in a kingdom like this, it's otherwise fairly weak, with a lot of high value, expensive stuff that you can research. Research looks phenomenal in exactly this sort of context. Shield is probably not a bad loot here with all the idols and cutthroats floating around. I would not even consider trashing a copper there. Any other action or any other card in your hand would be a much better research target at this. Like that, you're already in the greening phase. Getting copper is less of a priority. Drawing like 5 cards next turn, super valuable. I would kill an idol or a diplomat or nobles. Any of those I think would be a better target than copper. What are we doing for 11? Province seems all right. Could have been a 6 and a 5. Province nobles. I think if I wanted nobles, I would just buy the nobles and then buy a 5, like a duchy or something, rather than going into a ton of debt for it at this stage of the game. Pendant, an exciting card with a big hand. Maybe that'll motivate them to research something of value. Ooh, what do you do here? Remodeling the shield has a lot of appeal. Or even just remodeling the cutthroat would also be fine. I don't hate this line. Like, the attack does matter. But we're in the end game already. I don't like the taking so much debt if you're trying to hit province. Top decking remodel. Remodel is a pretty good card late in the game, just converting loots and $6 cards into provinces. You know what's even better at converting your expensive cards into value would be top decking a research. I'm just guessing that's not going to happen in this game, though. But if that were research, and researching that idol would be quite appealing. This is a lovely hand for Pendant. 5 distinct treasures all in the same hand. And with plus buy, too. Ooh, what do you leave on top? That is not obvious to me. They just left all of it on top. I would have strongly considered pitching the Cutthroat at the very least. It's no money next turn, and it's just a terminal action card that's getting in the way. Well, you can kill it with research at least. Alright, this will be a win. Alas, I don't think we did not see a single expensive card get researched. That strikes me as the key conceit of the kingdom. But this will be a win for Trina, Province Estate. And that ties the score at 1-1. Okay, what do we have here? Oh my, this is a nasty one. So the first thing that jumps out to me is Deliver is normally just a super busted event where you just put like 10 cards in your hand at the start of your turn. But it is completely shut down by discard attacks. So playing with a footpad seems mandatory to stop your opponent from delivering. Like if you don't have a footpad in your deck, your opponent just clicks deliver every turn and then gets huge amounts of value out of it. Footpad also synergizes with Governor, where you play Governor a bunch, you draw a bunch of cards using the +3 card effect, and then you footpad them. And all the cards you just drew them get discarded anyway. So footpad plus Governor is also a strong synergy. So footpad looks really significant to me for both of those reasons. Aside from that, what else is going on? We got draw with Hireling, Governor, Deliver, but not really. What's the Ferryman target? Scheme, it looks like. That doesn't look terribly important to me. It'd be lovely if you could get a shield from Cutthroat. I don't think there's a good way to top deck the shield reliably, though. The shield plus... if you could pull shield plus Puzzle Box, I think it'd be worth it to just set aside the shield every turn and never play it, just to counter Footpad, because the attack looks so nasty here. Thinning is pretty minimal here. There's no Flames Gift on Druid. Transmute doesn't actually get you any thinner, because it just converts one card into another card. It's really just Governor. And Governor is not good at thinning, because it lets your opponent trash too. So I think, yeah, thinning is not the move here. You just need enough draw to get through your deck. So get a footpad and then get a bunch of Governors, and that seems like the main goal here. How did they open? Oh no. Oh no. So they both got lucky. Ghost Town turn 1 is such a risky open. If you're taking like a 60% gamble to hit 5. Even the upside case of hitting 5 is a little bit dubious because you're top decking a ton of junk. But they do get the 5. The downside case of opening Ghost Town and not hitting 5 is like a 40% chance to lose the game immediately. Because if you draw one of your estates, you hit 4, and then you hit 4 again, and you hit 4 forever because you have a Ghost Town in your deck. I think it is a very dangerous gamble they both took, and fortunately for them, it paid off in both cases. I don't like the Druid buy. I don't see what Druid's doing for you here. The best boon here for sure would be Field's Gift. Again, River's Gift, just like everything else, is countered by Footpad. Having a big hand size doesn't matter because you get attacked. So the best boon here for sure is Field's Gift, which is just like non-terminal plus buy. It's like a Candlestick Maker. But you don't really need plus buy all that badly. Get all the gains in the world from Governor. If you really want to plus buy, I guess you could go for the loots. They do have Cutthroats, which it's not Footpad, because it's like a Footpad that gets stuck out of play. So definitely it's the worst of the two discard attacks, but it is a discard attack, so better than nothing. They're playing very quickly. I am not even remotely caught up. So each have one Cutthroat, looks like. Governor is a tricky card, and it's one that you often don't want to get terribly early because shield, that is an excellent loot to pull in this kingdom. So Governor, the remodel effect is often not terribly valuable because it does something great for you, but then it does something usually approximately equally great for your opponent, which is trash a bad card into a good card. And so Governor remodel effect, usually you're basically doing nothing because you're doing something that ostensibly benefits you, but that benefits your opponent equally much. The Governor gold gain, kind of similar boat. You gain a gold, your opponent gain a silver. In Governor games, early on at least, silver can often be better than gold because silver can be turned into additional 5-cost cards, whereas gold does nothing. Late in the game, you want golds, obviously, but early in the game, the gold gain again, probably helping your opponent more than you. And so I think the main early game usage of Governor is usually the draw, because like drawing your opponent is a bad thing, but you're drawing 2 cards for your opponent's 1. So the thing that is most net positive on value early on is using Governor for draw. And in this particular kingdom, using Governor for draw is extra valuable because you've got discard attacks to undo. What do you what? Draw the cards and then do the. I don't understand. Oh, they want the loot. The loot is not that important. Yeah. The thing I would stress here is deck control. It looks like both players are really focused on just getting all the treasures. And having all the treasures in your deck does not matter if you can't draw the treasures. Much more significant here, I think, is making sure you're drawing your deck, which means like a discard attack and then all the governors, I think, is where these decks should be going. Again, like, if your opponent can't play a discard attack every turn, then all of a sudden Deliver just becomes an absolutely broken card. Like, imagine you're buying a bunch of things every turn and you're just putting them all in your starting hand. It's like 5-10 cards of draw for 2 money. You don't want to let your opponent have access to that. Now, in these kingdoms, I don't think either deck has enough deck control to actually be buying multiple things a turn in the first place. But like, if one player built an engine and the other player doesn't, you're in a really dicey spot, because you need to be able to find your footpad or cutthroat every single turn to shut down the Deliver stuff. Otherwise, that is a lot of draw. Like here, for example, who has the footpad? Someone has a footpad. I don't know, maybe it's just an awkward time, DZ? Okay, yeah. So this is a great... Oh, no, don't buy province. No. So the opponent has 1 discard attack. They don't have a footpad, and their cutthroat is in play. So this is a scenario where you could safely deliver double governor straight to your hand. And they bought province footpad instead. Oh, do I have the players backwards? Maybe I mixed them up. Okay, if Trina had a footpad in the deck, yeah, I think I might have mixed the players up. Then the Deliver line is not safe, because they could hit you with the footpad and undo it. I want to emphasize Cutthroat. it's an all right card. It was better in the last kingdom, where you just wanted to shove your deck full of stuff and then research it. In this kingdom, Cutthroat strikes me as like, probably you don't touch it, but like maybe you can. Certainly the main goal of this kingdom is not just put all the treasures in your deck, and it seems like both players are way too focused on the moment you can get a treasure, you must gain that treasure, and you must activate your Cutthroat at all costs. I think that is certainly not the move here. Like, a lot of times, it's just like, I'm going to play a Cutthroat, and I'm going to leave it in play, and if my opponent wants to activate their Cutthroat, they can gain the gold, and then I'll take a loot, I guess. But I'm not going to go out of my way to gain a gold just to get my Cutthroat back, because then you have a gold in your deck, and that's a disaster. 8 governors left also strikes me as a big problem. That's the wrong order. So you have 2 actions, and you have a discard attack. If you wanted to play the governor first, you better be drawing with it. If you wanted to remodel with the governor, you play the discard attack first, so your opponent has to discard, and then they have fewer cards in hand to remodel when you do your thingy. Alright, well, this is a win for Trina. No, no, salt the earth. Trash a victory card from the supply. There's one province left. No. Oh no. Well, it looks like it's not gonna make a difference. But Trina just passed up on a free win there. Definitely deliver the duchy. I mean, it's unlikely to matter either way, but like, there's no downside to click and deliver first. Hadn't Trina just salted earlier in the game? No, it was Kuyara who salted. Okay, so maybe Trina has not played with Salt the Earth. Yeah. Salt the Earth is kind of scary because it incentivizes early greening, and then you take a lead, and then you can salt the rest of the provinces, so that even if your deck is stalling out, you can close out the game. Okay, game 4. Oh, this looks like a doozy. So for thinning, you've got Mercenary, which is an absolutely nasty card. But also a very strong card. And so probably the open has to be Double Urchin, because your goal is to get Mercenary ASAP and trash your cards. Fortunately, there's at least some counter in the form of Village Green. If your opponent Mercenary is you and you discard a Village Green, you can trigger it and then use it at the start of next turn. So Village Green looks important. The main draw here is Imps off of Devil's Workshop, so that'll be significant. And then eventually you can build up playing a bunch of Groundskeepers and then buying estates. Is probably the best way to score here. So yeah, I think that's the goal. First Urchin, then Village Greens and Imps, and then Groundskeepers. What did they do? Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. So Urchin Devil's Workshop, not a fan of, because like again, the goal is just to line up 2 Urchins. So I would just open Double Urchin. You've got like, what is that, like a 5 in 11 chance of immediately hitting Mercenary, in which case that's just game winning usually if you get Mercenary in your second shuffle and your opponent doesn't. If you don't line up the 2 Urchins, what you usually do is you buy a 3rd Urchin, and then the next shuffle you're just sure to collide 2 of those 3 Urchins. Not 100%, but it's like close to it. And you want to get the Mercenary as early as possible. The Devil's Workshop is not good early on, because it's not typically likely to get you Imps, which is the main thing you value. Oh no, not the gold. Not the gold. Again, the gold is just like attacking yourself. This is adding an extra junk card to your deck that is making it harder if you don't line up your Urchins, harder for you to play your Mercenaries because your deck is thicker. I think in this scenario, I would Desperation buy a 4 cost just so my Devil's Workshop could game me an Imp instead of a gold. I think it'd be the better play there. You want the Devil's Workshop eventually because it's getting you your main draw card, which is the Imps. But you're just not that likely to activate it early on. Like, you can make it work with Desperation, but you don't want to be taking curse if you don't have to. So I think I would hold off on the Devil's Workshop until a little bit later. But that is still the better open than Desperation Gold. Kuyara. That is... It's like opening with 2 curses. The Urchin isn't doing anything for you. When your opponent's deck is full of junk, the discard attack does not matter yet. They're going to have an estate in hand or whatever to discard. The reason you open with the Urchin is to get the Mercenary from the bottom text effect. And so the Urchin needs to line up with another Urchin. If you're filling your deck with a bunch of junk, then that is just never going to happen, and your deck is never going to come together. Yeah, these golds are... oh no. Copper? That's almost as bad as gold. At least copper, it's not trading off with something of value. It is stressful. I'm gonna blame Keep. I think they're probably they're misreading Keep. Some folks seem to look at Keep and think like, this says play big money, gain all the treasures. It says exactly the opposite of that. Keep says build a big engine, because if you have all the deck control and you put together a big engine, then later in the game you have full flexibility to gain all the treasures, whichever treasure you want. Usually you like trash all your coppers and then go for the other 2 piles, And it it tends to be the case that the person who builds the engine and has no treasure early on ends up winning the keep split on most of the piles anyway. But also, keep is just, it's a big chunk of victory points in the kingdom. I think it's an extra 15 points sitting around. And the more victory points in the kingdom, the better engines are, because it's a lot easier to outscore somebody who's just bum rushing the provinces. You don't need to like get all the duchies to outscore them. You can win on keep points, or in this case, also groundskeeper points. And so just in general, having a bunch of alternative victory points available pushes the engine, because it means you can prolong the game. You don't need to win the province split to win. You can beat someone who went for the provinces by scoring keep points. And so I have to imagine that all these golds and coppers are being motivated by keep. And I think that is misconstruing keep's effect on the game. Okay, we just have our first mercenary gain. Turn 10. Better late than never. Oh, no, not a I just want to emphasize, step 1 of this kingdom is play mercenary a bunch of times. We haven't accomplished step 1 yet. It is certainly not step 20 by province. You don't need to ever buy province in this kingdom. Again, like keep is some amount of alternative victory points, but groundskeeper is a lot of points. Imagine your opponent is buying all these provinces, and then you just take a stack of groundskeepers, and all of a sudden each estate is worth like 9 points or more. All the provinces in the world aren't going to be enough to win versus a well-oiled groundskeeper engine. All right, well, I think the engine ship has sailed. This could be a province if you really wanted it to be. You could Animal Fear to Trash Nomads for 2 money, then Desperation for 2 money by province. Okay, so it looks like Kuyara has exactly 1 more copper than Trina does, based on the fact that there was a 10-point score shift from that copper trash. I don't know where silvers are at. Looks like 2-1 in Trina's favor. So Trina's up 1 on silvers. Kuyara's up 1 on coppers. I don't know who's winning the gold split. You can find out pretty easily. Gains the gold. Kuyara. And now even on coppers. I believe it's 3-1 Kuyara's favor on golds. Alright, we are full-on greening mode. What do you do as Kuyara? 16 points is a lot of points to make up at this stage of the game. Like if you were building an engine, your opponent had 16 points, you'd be fine. But if you're both playing big money and your opponent's had 16 points, that is not terribly easy to come back from. Definitely Desperation Province here as Trina. You got a big points lead, you're just trying to end the game. Duchy is not bringing the game closer to a close. You're giving your opponent time to catch up. This can be a province as well, or can it? Maybe it can't be. No, you would need more buys for that. I was gonna say you could armory for a nomads and then do the animal fair thing, but they only had 1 buy this time, so that trick doesn't work. I probably would have taken silver copper there over the double estate. I am back. What have I missed? Looks like Trina's running away with it. I'm going to guess the plus buy has something to do with that. Obviously, in a game where you're trying to edge out your opponent on like low-cost cards like silver and copper, a few extra plus buys makes a difference. Yeah. Did not get to see the engine. Oh, I don't love top decking an estate. Armory is exceptionally bad at gaining victory cards because it puts it straight onto your deck, and it's not great rating price points. Armory for silver, for example, I think would have looked pretty good there. Actually, would have gotten you to 8, as it turns out. Not that it matters too much. With a 20-point lead, Trina is likely to win this one anyway. Yeah. Key detail of that kingdom, Mercenary is really strong. You gotta get the Mercenary. Those decks never really came together. Alrighty, what have we here? Got Caravan, Lost City, Stowaway are all draw cards. Got Rusty Village and Hideout and Lost City for villages. Hideout is thinning. We got plus buy with Merchant Guild and Druid. We got Groundskeeper again for all VP. And what else have we got? Rusty Village activates Harsh Winter, which I think is a mild nuisance. Druid has Flame's Gift, which looks okay. Hideout's not great at killing estates. I could conceive of getting a Druid to deal with your estates. Other than that, though, maybe the Earth's Gift matters as well. I think Druid looks alright here. Flame's Gift early to kill estates, Earth's Gift later to gain like caravans and villages and stuff. Doesn't look like the necessary card, but it looks like a card you could definitely consider. So yeah, this one looks like a pretty standard engine. You got your draw, your villages, plenty of both. You got thinning, you got plus buy, lots of alt VP. How to open? The players are more sure than I am because they're already playing. I'm gonna say I think I like Druid Hideout. Hitting 5 early does not seem that important to me. The 5s are good, you're gonna want them, but it's not like a kingdom where you need to get to 5 ASAP to get a recruiter or a sentry or anything. Hideout Druid is not hitting 5. But it is getting early thinning, which matters. And I think probably the most important early game goal is to get thin and then play some plus buy cards and then empty the peddler pile. Looks like a pretty good first order of business. How did they open? Caravan Druid seems alright. Rusty Village Stowaway do not like as much. I think Stowaway Hideout could be fine. Stowaway for draw looks alright. The big problem with this is open is just Rusty Village is not doing anything for you. Like in general, you're not opening villages ever really because you don't need a village effect on the first shuffle of the game. Hideout is good here. I mean, later on the village effect is fine, but the reason you'd open Hideout is not for the village, it is for the trashing part, which is not present on Rusty Village. Alright, let's catch up. So, Kuyara's got a choice here. Definitely not plus card. Oh no. This was a really, really unfortunate decision. So they're looking at, I think just about every good card in their deck was already in play. And then their discard pile was just, there's a caravan down there, but otherwise it's a bunch of estates and coppers. And they pitched 2 coppers to trigger a shuffle that is just 90% junk cards. This is one of those scenarios where like you look at this hand and you think like, darn, I had a bad draw. Now you caused the bad draw. That was very unforced error. I was just about to say, definitely don't click C's Gift here because it would trigger a nasty shuffle. The Rusty Village effect triggers an even worse shuffle because it triggers a shuffle, but it first puts 2 coppers into that shuffle, making it an even worse shuffle than it already was. I think your options there were trash a copper, buy a 4 cost, or you could just buy a 5, or you could discard and gain up 2 4s. I think any of those 3 sounded all right, but certainly you did not want to trigger a shuffle there. Basically losing a whole turn, because this next turn was a bit of a nothing burger, and it is because of this choice right here. Why is you do not need a province right? I don't even know what's happening right now. I'm still caught up on the shuffle trigger, but I know that turn 8 is not a province turn. Whatever has happened, your deck is not at province stage. Again, I'll point out, like, one of the things that makes building an engine extra easy if you're still on the fence of, like, I'm not sure I can pull it off, is the existence of alternative victory points. If you're looking at a game where your opponent is buying provinces and you're like, I don't know if I can catch up in time, if there's extra points around, you are functionally on a much longer timer to get your engine together. Because if it's like just provinces and they get like 5 of the provinces, that's beatable but not trivial. You gotta get like the last 3 provinces plus like 6 duchies in the state, which, you know, good engine can do that, but like that's harder. If there's other ways to score, like groundskeeper being the main one, but also marshal line here is pretty significant, then they can have 6 or 7 provinces, and as long as they haven't taken the last province in the game, you can easily get more than a full province stack's worth of points and then outscore them. And that's adding like 3-4 extra turns to the game, because, you know, like the 7th, like the 6th and 7th provinces are much harder for a big money deck to get than the 4th and 5th provinces. And so if they have to get 8 provinces to win, then you're lengthening the game a lot. And this kingdom has more than enough points for you to just not touch the province pile and let the person who greens too early stall out, and then, you know, engines scale up over time where your deck gets better and better and better. So 4 extra turns for you is a huge difference. I don't think that big money would have even really any realistic chance of winning in this kingdom. All right, so Trina is chaining a lot of stuff together. This all looks good. Oh, no, I was just in the middle of saying you were doing good. Why did you... That province is really, really, really bad. So it looks to me like they're drawing their deck, but they only had 2 buys. So whatever you're buying this turn, it better have plus buy on it. So Merchant Guild and Druid were the acceptable options there. The province, firstly, it's not plus buy, so you're not fixing the main problem your deck has at the moment. Secondly, it's making your deck worse. You've just added a junk card you have to draw through for the rest of the game. But thirdly, and probably most importantly here, is you are shortening the game clock for yourself. Like, if your opponent is buying provinces too early, you want more time to outscore them via other means. And if you're helping them lower the province pile, it is just like actively undermining your own main goal in just like every conceivable way. You're hurting your deck, you're failing to add cards necessary for your deck, and you're shortening the time you have to get your engine online. I'm not sure what Kuyara's plan is either, to be honest. Again, like, let's say you're in Kuyara's shoes and you're saying, my opponent has, their deck is doing more. And they failed to find plus buy because they added a province. This is karma right there. And they added another province, digging themselves further into a hole. Anyways, if you're in Kuyara's shoes and you're looking at your opponent who's got more of a deck that's gonna last longer, and you're already more aggressively in like buy province territory, Groundskeeper, I think, is not helping you. Groundskeeper is, I'm playing for the long game, but it is not helping you lower the province pile quickly. If you're Kuyara, you're trying to empty the province pile as quickly as you can. And so all of your buys should be oriented towards just hitting 8 consistently. Which, again, should not be your game plan in this kingdom. There's no way going for provinces wins. But if for whatever reason you are, you got to make sure that you are consistently buying provinces. It's like do you buy duchies, for example, on 5? If you're both playing big money, even from a fairly early point in the greening phase, buying duchy can be fine. 3 points makes a big difference in like a money versus money game. But if you're playing big money versus the engine, you basically never ever buy duchy at almost any point, because you've got to empty provinces as quickly as possible, and duchy is not helping you do that. And the groundskeeper, I would say, is effectively like a duchy. Like, it's doing nothing to help you hit 8. It is just extra points. And you don't win this game by outscoring your opponent. You win this game by ending the game before your opponent can do the thing that outscores you by orders of magnitude. I think Kuyara is probably still slightly favored here. Again, the engine should just totally run away with this game. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that big money beats an engine in a kingdom like this, with plenty of draw, plenty of trashing, plenty of actions and plus buy, tons of alternative victory points, just like everything you need to build. But these province buys are really crippling this deck pretty badly. So close to 8, but no cigar. I think the mentality people have in games like this is like, you see your opponent buy a really early province, and you're like, shoot, their deck is together already. They must have had a good reason for buying that province. I better start desperately buying provinces to stay on pace. And that's like the worst possible response you could have, because if your deck is not together yet, which it surely is not at that point, then buying provinces just means your engine never comes online. Your deck never does what it's supposed to do. You have those turns where, like, when you bottom deck your druid, you have no plus buy. The correct response is you see your opponent buy a province, you're like, oh good, I'm going to win this game because my opponent is greening too early. Their deck isn't ready for that. And you do your thing and don't let them buying questionably early provinces phase you. Alright, so Kuyara has said, I take it, forget the provinces, I'm going for marchlands now. Which, at this stage of the game, it's hard to say. Like, I think Trina seems to have given up on the engine thing. We're not drawing our deck anymore, we're just buying green cards. So now it's hard to say what the correct move is. Can you afford Marchland Province here? So they had 10 money, I believe, and 4 cards in hand. So they'd have been 1 money short of Marchland Province because there was 2 dead on the pile. Given that, let me go back up. Yeah, I'm not sure how you play this turn here. I think that was it. They're also making very fast decisions. Like a number of these spots strike me as like legitimately very thinky. You got the time. You don't have to make the first snap buy that comes to mind. So Marchland effectively costs 3 here, plus 2 debt. From the way they're going for the estates, you would think they have more marchlands in their deck than they actually do. I don't really understand why we're buying estates so aggressively. This is a sad hand. If you hit 5 with a bunch of junk in a Marchland Kingdom, you get a lot of value out of that. Hitting 4 is a whole lot worse. Okay, so now 2 piles are empty. Gotta look out for pile outs. The caravan pile, for example. Marchland could also run. I keep getting distracted. Where are we now? Is that? I marshland's the move there. Again, if the marshland pile empties, the game ends. I think as Kuyara, you've got to drag it on somehow. Probably like a duchy or something there. For 3, you could take a gold off of quest. Nothing really matters here is the real answer. Is you have 27 cards left in your deck. There's 1 card left in the marshland pile. Yeah, so if you kept the silver in hand, that would have worked. It doesn't really matter because there's no chance that anything you buy here shows up again before the game ends, realistically speaking. And so I don't think it actually mattered. But probably gold is the best thing theoretically to gain. Alrighty. 4-1 for Trina, I believe. Yep. Going into the 5th game, which I believe is what Trina needed, right? So, with a 5-1, they would both be sitting at 13 after this, which would functionally be a much better spot for Trina because Trina would have one more match to play. With a 4-2, it probably comes down more strongly to Trina's final match. Okay, what is this? This looks tricky. So you got develop for thinning. It's not a lot of thinning, but we'll do the trick here. We got villa for villages, and Shantytown is a much weaker village. It also summon. And we got ranger for draw as well as pathfinding. There's minion. I think minion looks pretty bad here just because the thinning is too weak. Actually, I'm going to take that back. Minion's a definite maybe. Like with minion, you're pitching your hand and redrawing a hand, which is not great with treasure-based payload because you have to pitch your treasure before you can play them. And so with minion, you really need something that gets all your coppers out of your deck early. Here, a partial exception you can make is you could put your coppers into play first, buy Villa, return to your action phase, and then play minion after playing your coppers. And that makes minion at least considerable, is like the Villa tricks. But I'd probably, like, if I got a minion, I'd be like, maybe a minion early to do something with Villa. But it's not what I'd be banking my strategy on. How do you open here? I'm going to say the open should definitely involve a develop, I think. I think you want to get thin. Probably just develop silver, I think looks best. Well, the other option would be Silver Night Watchman. Silver Night Watchman does a really good job of hitting 5. On 4-3 even, you could do Astrolabe Night Watchman, which gets you to 5 and keeps your Astrolabe in play. And then if you get to 5, an early Quartermaster, early Tormentor, either of those could be a good early 5, or even just summoning and develop. So I think either Silver / Astrolabe plus turn 2 9 Watchman to get early 5s, or just straight into develop looks good. They've already long since made up their mind. Again, I would recommend slowing down a little bit. There's a lot going on here. Yeah, Ranger definitely not the move. What has Ranger been doing for you? I can't make sense of either of these openings. Turn 2 Night Watchman is really good in one specific scenario, which is you put something that adds payload into your deck. Like, for example, was it the 4-3? Imagine you buy Astrolabe. Then you buy Night Watchman. You reveal 5 of your 6 cards. You discard the 1 estate. You're guaranteed to have a $5 hand. So you get to a 100% guarantee of a 5. But the second reason why the Night Watchman is good is because you triggered an early shuffle. And so your deck is just 5 cards. So the $5 card you buy is going straight back into your deck for immediate value. With Ranger Night Watchman, all you're doing is you're saying, like, I'm going to play a Ranger and hit 3 again on my next turn, which is nothing special. Maybe they're trying to hit 8 for, like, an early pathfinding is the way I would rationalize this, is like Ranger Silver into play Ranger, hopefully draw enough to hit 8 off of that, and then you could pathfind villas. I'm going to guess that's not where this went. I can't even keep... This is not a kingdom that they should be playing this fast. That anyone should be playing this fast. I don't know where we are. One of these players needs to develop, it looks like. I'm not sure who currently has it. Okay, Trina has the develop. Ooh. I was expecting them to develop the ranger there. Nine, definitely Pathfind Villa. Pathfinding Shantytown. Oh, it's definitely worse, but it's the same spirit. You've now built a normal village out of your shantytown. The villa is a surprisingly excellent target for pathfinding because it justifies just spamming the villas, which is a card that you really love to click on whenever you can. And the main reason you don't just click on all the villas all the time is because it's a stop card normally. You put pathfinding on it, not only does it remove the drawback of buying villa, but also it's like a little mini cavalry of sorts where, like, oh, I need one extra draw. Well, I can just buy a villa, put it in my hand, and immediately draw off of it. So villa is a phenomenal pathfinding target. Looks like Kuyara's in the lead. What do you buy here? Definitely not gold. I'm not sure what the correct answer was, but not gold. I was thinking about something like summoning a ranger, maybe. Summon a ranger, maybe. Trina needs to get to 8 for pathfinding. Seems like the most important proximate goal. It's also definitely not province time. Like the reason you should be buying province should be the piles are almost empty, I need to score or I will lose. The piles are not almost empty, and neither player has any pile pressure, like the ability to empty piles on the spot. You don't buy province because you hit 8. You buy province because you have to. And nothing at this stage of the game says, I have to buy province right now or I will lose. I see a pile full of rangers I would love to get the majority of, and I wouldn't even consider buying province until that pile is empty. Unless for some reason 3 piles are empty. I don't know why estates are at 3 right now. I can't explain that. Oh, Shantytown Pathfinding is also kind of awkward because Pathfinding triggers first. Like, you always do the token stuff before the full effect. It says you first get +1 card. So you can have a hand like this, and if the Shantytown accidentally draws an action, it shuts itself off. I would nonetheless call Shantytown like the second best pathfinding target. It's just a distant second place to Villa, which is just all the upside of Shantytown plus additional upsides and fewer of the downsides. Looks like Trina has not hit 8 yet. I definitely like summoning Ranger here. The half minion, half ranger decks don't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, those cards do not synergize terribly well. Again, the thing that makes minion not like utterly unbuyable in this kingdom is the ability to do villa stuff with it, where you buy a villa and then you return to your action phase and then you trigger the minion. But it doesn't look like they're doing that. These minions are just like fancy silvers for the most part. Like here, definitely buy villa. 100%. You buy the villa first to get the gold and the copper in play. No. Okay, well, we'll hit 8. So now we can put pathfinding on villa, hopefully. Wow. That is not pathfinding, and it is not on villa. First? Nope. I don't know what to do with 4 here. Ranger, I guess? Yeah. That was a surprisingly helpful Night Watchman. Like, usually, Night Watchman is a card you buy turn 2 specifically for playing on turn 2, and then it's just a junk card that you have to deal with for the benefit of the early game acceleration. Not too often you see Night Watchman retaining its value later in the game. You hit 8. You imagine if your cards drew extra cards for you, how much more often you'd continue to hit 8. Pathfinding is really strong. It's a very good effect. Given the number of somewhat misplaced minions in this deck, even Pathfinding minion at this point would be pretty weak. Like, you shouldn't plan on Pathfinding minion. Certainly, from start of game, there's no reason you should ever plan on putting Pathfinding minion in this kingdom. But if somehow a bunch of minions in your deck, then Pathfinding on minion could make some sense. And speaking of Alt VP, I mean, there's Duke, which, like, if you're both doing the same thing, look at all these villas that could be drawing a card each. Imagine if there's Pathfinding on these villas. It's not too late. You can still do it. Pause your turn, put the copper in the Astrolabe into play, buy Pathfinding, put it on minion, return to your action phase, and you can be getting Pathfinding immediately on the same turn. That's not something you do terribly often. Another problem with minion to note is if you're not careful, you trigger some nasty shuffles. Because, like, if you spent your whole turn, draw my good cards, play my good cards, pitch my bad cards, draw some more cards, play the good cards, pitch the bad cards, your discard pile is chock full of junk. It's all the stuff that you didn't plan on playing. And then if you draw all the way through your deck and you trigger a shuffle and you draw a little bit into that discard pile, all of a sudden there's like 10 junk cards on top of your deck if you're not careful. Anyways, back to the Duke point. I don't think I would plan on going for Duke here, like in the abstract. But if my opponent is buying provinces way too early, I would happily let them have all the provinces while I went for Duchy and Duke. Again, just like if there's Alt VP, it is very hard for the big money deck to win because, like, you have time. You have time to build your engine, and if they have to take 8 provinces all on their own, that takes a lot of work for a player that is underbuilding. What do you do here? Villas are out, otherwise trashing minion into Villa will look really good. Do they not have a win there? I'm just not noticing those provinces are at 1, which, you know, they shouldn't be, but they were. What was in their hand? 2 coppers, a gold, and a develop. I've got a sneaking suspicion that they might have had a win. Maybe they're 1 coin short? I'm going to reload that real fast and take a look. I have my curiosities. Anyways, while I'm doing that, congratulations to Trina for eking out victory. Looks like Division H7 is now neck and neck. And there's one more match left to play between Trina and TrinaCat to determine who will be ultimately staying in H tier next season. I was trying to get back to this spot and take a look. Yeah, undo. This was a win after all. Yep. So you're 23-29. Develop Ranger, gain a Duchy. Then something else, doesn't matter. 2 coins. There we go. That would have been a win.